What is going on, YouTube? Hey, this is Angel here with another video on NomaTube. Today's April 25th, 2025. And in today's episode, I wanted to talk about what it seems to be a pretty trending topic this time of the year because of how economy is going, because of the cost of living, and that is the topic of full-time RVing. Okay, but I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach when it comes to talking about full-time RVing, because what I've seen in most of the videos that I've already seen on YouTube is what you will have is typically this one person or one family that decide to make a full-time RV living, and they're just sharing their experiences on this specific type of RV. So the approach that I'm going to take is a little different, where what I like to do is basically break down every single RV category and then cover the pros and cons about living full-time in this RV on this specific one. And then I'll do the same thing with the other one. So I'm going to do the same scenario with each one of them individually. So that's a different approach that I'm going to take. But even with that, like I said in all my videos, I feel that I have a good enough experience on this subject, but I'm still no expert. I mean, I own RVs for quite some time now, and I have my RV rental business, but I'm sure there's still people out there like the one it could be you, that you can agree, you can disagree, you can fact check me. So that's why the comment box below is. So feel free to engage on the comment box and let me know if you agree, disagree, or anything else you would like to share or expand into the topics that I'm going to be talking about today. All right. I would like to do some sort of like an objective breakdown before I go into the details of the video. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. Like I said, I'm going to be breaking down each RV category with the pros and cons about living in an RV on each one of them. Then I'm going to talk about another really important topic, which is going to be where you're going to park this RV full time. Then we're going to be talking about the difference between purchasing, paying cash versus financing. And then we're going to talk about the pros and cons of the different transportation methods when it comes to moving your RV. And if time allows, we're going to talk about some additional expenses and accessory you will have to buy depending on the RV of your choice. All right, so let's go ahead and go straight into the first one. I decided to break it down a little bit of a different setup. So I'm just going to go from the very cheapest option of RVs, and so all the way up to the most expensive one. So it's a little easier to digest because there's a lot out there. All right, let me take a sip of water. So let's start with the first one. The first one, they are known as pop-up campers. And they're called pop-up campers for a reason. They are called pop-up campers because this is literally a camper that has no walls. The walls are basically vinyl that you can creep up and down. All right. This one is most definitely the cheapest out of all RV options. Out of all of them. Okay. I've done some research lately, and I've seen some brand new pop-up campers for like as low as $50,000. That's insanely cheap on today's economy. Okay. So that is most definitely the first perk of this RV, how cheap they are. Another benefit of your pop-up campers is the fact of how lightweight they are. I'm telling you, I had a pop-up camper before, and when I owned one, I was literally towing it with like a small SUV. That small SUV had a towing capacity of like 4,000 pounds. It would have still towed it with no problems, because the pop-up camper that I owned at the time, I think only weighed like 1,800 pounds, something like less than 2,000 pounds. So this is crazy how lightweight they are. So that's the good perk about it, is that they're not only inexpensive to own, but you don't need an expensive vehicle to move it with you either. So it's cheap all the way across. Another perk of your pop-up campers is the fact of storing them. And I know this video is most centric on living on them, but let's say you decide to do this for some time, but at one point you just want to take a break. You want to take a break on full-time RVing. You want to go back to living in a normal house, but you may not necessarily want to get rid of the RV. So if you just want to park it and store it, because they get so compact when they're fully enclosed, I'm telling you, they can fit anywhere. They can fit in your garage. They can fit in your backyard. I can actually tell you, when I owned one in the house that I lived at the time, had HOA, homeowners association, and within those rules, you were not supposed to store RVs in your house. But because I had a Papa camper and they're so low to the ground and they're so light, I could have put it on my backyard without no one even knowing that I had a RV in my backyard. So that's the other benefit and beauty of your pop-up campers. So yeah, now let's flip a little bit. Now let's talk about some cons. There's a few. The first con, which I kind of think is the most important one, is like the overall space or square footage inside. Pop-up campers are very, very compact, right? And we're tailoring this video on a topic of full-time RVing. So they are very limited when it comes to the square footage. And that kind of ties into the next thing, which is just overall space. If you're living on this full-time, just know that you're going to be limited on so many different ways. Like pop-up campers don't have a full-size kitchen. They may or may not even have a bathroom. Like the one that I had has like a half bathroom, where it was a shower and the toilet was the same thing, and then you had just a plastic curtain, so there's no privacy. You had to crank it or build it up and down every time you wanted to use it. So might not be a microwave. You don't have a living room. You don't have a bedroom. Like everything is just so compact. So I would say you would be really careful if you decide to make this a everyday stay and full-time living, because it could be a little claustrophobic if you're doing this for like a long period of time. So when it comes to a family composition, I don't know if we want to do full-time or being on a pop-up camper for anything bigger than maybe just like a single couple with no kids. Any kids, maybe a toddler. That's probably as much as I will take it. So another con about your pop-up camper is it's not just the space, the overall space when you're living on it, it's also the storage space. Because again, we're gonna be living in this place full time. This is not just a weekend or a week vacation getaway. So where are you gonna store all your belongings? There is very little storage space on pop-up campers. So that means that if you do go for this choice, you're most likely gonna have to like pay for one of those U-Haul storage space outside of whatever your place you're living in this. So that's an additional expense. Just something else to keep in the back of your mind. Another con about your pop-up campers is the fact of privacy and security. What I mean by that, remember I told you earlier that these pop-up campers, they don't have any walls. The walls are just vinyl. So if you're making this a full-time living option and you're leaving your RV to go anyway, to go to work, to go anywhere, really, there's no privacy in your RV because it's just a vinyl. Anyone can just simply come with a knife, rip off the vinyl, and they can be inside your RV in less than a minute. So I will be really hesitant about leaving any type of, like high value items inside my RV if I leave, because I know they can be so easily stolen. So that could be a deal breaker for some people. Okay. And I have one more. So one more con when it comes to the pop-up campers, and it's this fact of inclement weather. So if you live in a place with it's really hot or really cold, you're gonna be at the mercy of the inclement weather with your pop-up camper. Why? Because of the same thing. Because they do not have any insulation. They don't have walls. So while most of the model ones will come with an AC or heat, mine had both. But still, because there's no walls, there's no way to actually keep that cold or hot air inside, because it's just gonna disappear or just to go away because there's no walls through the vinyl. So that could be another big deal breaker if you live in a hot weather or cold weather climate, if you're trying to use it. And that's it. That's actually it when it comes to the first one, which is our pop-up campers. Let's go to the next one of the line, which is going to be our truck campers. And they're actually called truck campers for that specific reason. This is a camper that go on top of the bed of your truck. All right. So when it comes to the pros and perks, I'm going to say the first one, similar to pop-up campers, is affordability. So these truck campers are also maybe a little more expensive than pop-ups, but they're relatively inexpensive. All right. So that's a big perk. Similar perk than the other one is also storing them. They can be very, very compact when it comes to you putting them in a location if you're deciding to take a break from using it or just doing the whole full-time living experience. Another unique perk that truck campers have is the fact that because these ones goes on top of your bed of your pickup, let's say you have some toys you want to also bring with you to this new RV living experience. And when I say toys, I mean maybe you have a jet ski, a boat, a four-wheeler that you're going to put in a trailer, some sort, anything of that nature. You can knock out two birds with one stone, and you can bring your home and your toys in the same trip because this camper goes on top of your bed, not on your hitch. That's another unique perk that, you know, if you're doing a long trip, like maybe like some type of cross-country move, it will be probably a really advantageous for you not to have to do a second trip to bring anything else, or potentially just have to get rid of it because you're not going to do that drive twice. Okay, so now let's talk about cons. There's some sort of similar to the cons of your truck camper. Similar to pop-up campers, one is just space. Same thing that your pop-up campers. It is very compact. It is very enclosed. So there is no living room. There is no bedroom. Most likely there's not going to be a bathroom. There's no kitchen. Everything is just compact. So it will be really hard if you're going to stay inside this RV for long periods of time because there's barely any space to walk around. So that might be a little too, like I said before, too claustrophobic, depending on your personality type. And then another con of your truck campers, similar than before, is storage space. Where are you going to store all your belongings? There is very little, if no, storage space on truck campers. So going back to the same thing, you're probably going to have to pay for storage on any U-Haul facility or similar if you decide to make this a full-time living option. Okay, so those are the kind of the two cons when it comes to the truck camper. All right, let me take another sip of water. Let's talk about the next one in our list right now, and that is going to be your travel trailers. Okay, your travel trailers, they have a lot of perks, and I'm going to say one of the biggest benefits of travel trailers is that while they are going higher in price compared to the options that we just discussed before, they're still within the affordable price range, especially if you're trying to go for like a financing option. So they are affordable. So that's one perk. Travel trailers are probably the one that has the most amount of like different variations. What I mean is they have the most amount of different models, the most amount of different like sizes, the most amount of different amenities when it comes to slide outs, when it comes to bunk beds, when it comes to the building materials, when it comes to ramps on the back. There's just so many options when it comes to travel trailers. So that's just a good perk to have, that you have so much to choose from. Another perk of your travel trailers is that now we're going a little bit higher in the chain when it comes to, you can now start to see some amenities, some of the same amenities that you will see on home, because we're focusing this video on living on this place full time. So in travel trailers, especially modern ones, you're now starting to see like full-size bedrooms, a full-size bathroom, a full-size kitchen, any of those full-size amenities that are nice to have if you're making this a full-time living option. And then one more perk when it comes to travel trailers, that's the fact of, or travel trailers, because there's so many options that can vary when it comes to the weight, it is still within the affordable category of when it comes to towing them. And when I say by that is, most travel trailers, you can tow them with a full-size SUV or a full-size pickup truck. Like the travel trailer I had, I towed it with a Nissan Armada, which is a full-size SUV, tows almost about the same as a Nissan pickup truck, Titan. So that's what I mean, that it's still affordable in the sense that you do not have to incur like in a really expensive pickup truck, like a diesel or dually, to be able to tow these, because you can still put them on your hitch. All right, so that's most of the pros and perks of your travel trailer. When it comes to cons, there's not that many. I was thinking about it. I just thought about one, and that's the fact that, well, like I just said, your travel trailers have some of the same features that you will see in a home. It's still a little limited in a sense of, let me give this example. So yeah, on a travel trailer, you will have a full-size bedroom, but that's just only one. A full-size bathroom, but that's still only one. So if you have a family composition of, husband and wife, like a spouse with kids, especially if you have teenagers, like, how teenagers are these days, they want to have their own space or private room. There's no such thing as for the most part, like multiple bedrooms on a travel trailer. So they're gonna have their own space. Might just be the same space as the dining room, the same space as, like the common areas. So that might be a little deal breaker for your younger ones if they want to have their own private space. Not to mention, like with only one bathroom, if you're making this a full-time living option, let's say maybe your kids will still go to school, let's say maybe you still will go to work, having to take turns to use the one bathroom could be very inconvenient, during that morning time where everybody's trying to get ready. I don't know. Those are just the thoughts that I was thinking about, that it will have to be planned well ahead because of the limitations that will bring. There's also no wash and dryer connection on most travel trailers. So that means that whatever place you're living, you're gonna have to either live in a place that has that option that you can go to, or just go with any of those laundromats and coin operators and pay to get your clothes washed there. So that's it when it comes to travel trailers. Then the next one on our list is gonna be your fifth wheels. Excuse me. And when I was thinking about the fifth wheels, I can definitely say and agree that your fifth wheels are most definitely the number one choice when it comes to people that are thinking about buying an RV to live in it full time. Is the top option. Okay, so, and it's for very obvious reasons. One is going to be like space. Your fifth wheels are probably the most comparable RV living option to any house. They have the most amount of space. They have the most amount of amenities that you will see in a home. We're talking about like full-size bedroom, full-size kitchen, full-size bathroom, multiple bedrooms, multiple bathrooms, high ceilings, washer and dryer connection, anything and everything you can think of, like high cost items in place in your fifth wheel, like sink, amenities, anything like that. So they are very, very, very nice when it comes to the amenities you'll find in a fifth wheel. So that's most definitely the biggest perk when it comes to your fifth wheels. All right, but that comes with a con. The con about that is the price. In the fifth wheels, you are going up into the price points. Now you're going into, unless you're going for like a very small fifth wheel, I'm thinking at the very least you're talking about probably 50K if you're talking about a brand new fifth wheel, but that's still unknown. I mean, I've seen most new fifth wheels are into that maybe like $60,000-$70,000 price point, and you can still go up, don't get me wrong. I've seen them even higher than that, but now you're going really into like the high-end price when it comes to these type of units. So that's just something that some people cannot afford. And then another con when you're talking about full-time living is, like I was explaining before, because how heavier and big they are, now you're taking SUVs out of the picture and even a lot of pickups out of the picture. And now you have to focus yourself on either a diesel or a dually truck for the most part, because how heavy they are. So that's depending on your budget, those pickup trucks are not cheap. So now it's not just the cost of the RV alone, it's the cost of what am I going to use to tow it, which is could be a lot of money these days too with the cost of vehicles. Okay, so that's it when it comes to fifth wheels. Let's move into the next one in our chain, which actually this is the last one when it comes to towable RV options. And this is going to be what they call a toy hauler. And they call it toy hauler for a reason. They call it toy hauler for the reason of you can actually bring your toys on this RV experience. What I mean by that, toy haulers have a ramp on the back of the RV that you can actually use to bring in any of your toys. And when I'm talking about toys, I'm obviously talking about, like a jet ski, like a probably small boat, motorcycles, snowmobiles, perhaps maybe like four-wheelers, trailers. I haven't even seen small cars inside toy haulers, like a Mini Cooper type of car. So depending on the model. So that is one definitely a unique perk about the toy haulers, which is a pro, is the fact that you can bring toys with you in this trip, kind of like what I was saying with the truck camper on the previous example. So if you're doing like a very long road trip type of moving RV experience, like example, when I was stationed in Alaska, I drove from Alaska to San Antonio. So that was 4,200 miles. So if I would have done that drive, I would have definitely will not come back to bring any toys. I would have probably just sold them and bought new ones on my new location. So that could be inconvenient. But if I had to toy hauler, I didn't have to, because I could have basically just bring those items with me inside my RV. So that's a big perk, right? When it comes to the toy haulers, that is absolutely a plus. Okay, now let's talk about cons. Cons is just the price is another big one. Toy haulers are probably, I'm pretty confident that toy haulers are the most expensive out of all towable options when it comes to RVing. I can tell you that if we're sticking into the brand new models, I will doubt that you will find a toy hauler for less than six figures. Okay, unless you're going for something very, very small. And something that you're going very, very small, you probably wouldn't even be able to tow anything inside, because as smaller they are, as smaller is their towing capacity inside the toy hauler. That's what I mean. So they're very expensive. So be ready for, close to that six-figure lineman when it comes to buying one of these brand new. Okay. The other con about toy haulers is, how I was telling you earlier with the fifth wheel, and they have so much space and so much amenities and so much nice things. When the toy haulers are a little different, because the toy haulers will have all your essentials. They're gonna have a full-size bedroom, a full-size bathroom. They're gonna have, even like a full-size kitchen. But some of the secondary stuff, you might not be able to find, because you're sacrificing that space that they're giving you to be able to store those toys inside the toy hauler. You're giving out that extra space to be used for that. So it could be a con, depending for some people, because if you have a full-size family, you're sacrificing that space that you potentially were given to the kids, or to have a second bedroom or a second bathroom, to be able to have that for just storage space for your toys. Okay. And then the last con when it comes to toy haulers is what are you going to tow it with? They're probably the heaviest when it comes to weight out of all towing options for RVing. So they are very, very heavy, and because you're bringing even more weight when you're bringing those items with you and put them inside the toy hauler, that will carry even more weight into whatever vehicle you're using. So I can tell you that I have never seen anyone towing a toy hauler without anything lower than a dually or a heavy diesel truck. So that means that you're not only spending a lot of money on your toy hauler, if you don't have already a vehicle that can tow that, you're gonna spend even more money on one of those expensive diesel or dually trucks to be able to tow them. All right. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the towable RV options, right? We're still not done. Now this is gonna cover the options when it comes to the drivable options, okay? And your first drivable option is called the Class B camper van. Excuse me. And I like to put a visual if you've never even seen these before, so you have an idea what I'm talking about. The Class B camper van is basically, if you ever rented a U-Haul van for any moving needs, it's basically a U-Haul van with a home inside. That's basically what it is. All right. So when it comes to pros and perks of your Class B camper van, price is one of them. Now, when I'm talking about price, I'm talking about camper vans are definitely the cheapest out of all drivable RV options. I'm not saying they're cheaper than the previous ones. They may or may not be, but out of all drivable RV options, Class B camper vans are most definitely the cheapest one. So that's a perk. Another perk of your camper vans is fuel economy. They are a van, so they don't really spend that much money compared to the models that we're going to be discussing here in a minute. They're the cheapest and the best for fuel economy out of all drivable RV options. They're also really compact and easy to drive. You know, and if you drove a van before, I mean, they're not as small as a car, but they're pretty like maneuverable when it comes to driving them. You don't need a whole lot of experience to be able to drive them around. So you can basically drive them at any same place you can drive a car or an SUV, right? When it comes to parking, turning, going to tight spaces like downtown areas, they don't really take that much of a big effort. Okay, now let's talk about cons. A big con about your camper vans is, like what we were discussing on the previous models, is just the overall space. They are compact because everything has to fit in a van. So you're going to be limited on a lot of things when it comes to your overall square footage space, but also your overall space for all your living amenities. We're going back to the same example as before, where you don't have a full-size bedroom in a camper van. You don't have a full-size bathroom. You don't have a full-size kitchen. You don't have a dining room. You don't have a lot of things on a camper van because they are compact to be able for you to fit everything in a van setting. So that could be a con depending on how you look at it. Another con when it comes to your camper van is storage space, kind of the similar to before. Where are you going to store all your belongings if you continue to talk about this is a full-time RVing experience? So again, you're going to have to pay for storage elsewhere. They don't have wash and dry connections, so that's an additional expense in your end. They also are very limited, if nothing at all, when it comes to towing capabilities, because this is a vehicle, so you will be able to tow something with you on the options that I'm about to cover here in a minute. But at this one, while they might have the hitch capabilities, it's more like for a luggage rack or anything like that. Probably nothing on wheels you're going to be able to tow on a camper van. All right, so let's move into the next one in our list, which is going to be your Class C motorhomes. Okay, so your Class C motorhomes, to put you a picture into the perspective, using the same scenario as U-Haul. If you ever rented a U-Haul truck for any moving needs that you had, it's the same thing. It's a U-Haul truck with a home inside. So let's talk about perks and pros. They are a lot more spacious than the previous model that I explained, and not just spacious alone. Now you're going to start seeing the same amenities that you will see in a house. You could see Class C motorhomes with a full-size bedroom, with a full-size bathroom, with a full-size kitchen, with bunk beds, capabilities, a lot more capabilities when it comes to the overall storage space. Okay, Another perk of your Class C motorhomes is the fact of, going back to what I was saying before, Class C motorhomes will probably have a little more towing power. I had Class C's as well, so on these you can probably fit and tow any type of toy, like when it comes to jet ski, ATVs, trailers, boats, anything of that nature, and maybe even small cars. Nothing big, but like small cars, you could probably still get away with that. Okay, so that's another perk about your Class C motorhomes. So now let's talk about cons. A big con with your Class C motorhomes is price. In your Class C motorhomes, you are really going higher in the price point where you could now starting to tap into those six figures to buy brand new Class C motorhomes. I mean, not always. You could find something a little cheaper, but it will probably be something very small. But if you're thinking about something new, it will be close, if not already over a six-figure mark. Okay. Another con about your Class C motorhomes is MPG efficiency. These vehicles, they are built with either a V8 or a V10 engine. So the MPG capabilities are not the best because they are a big vehicle. They are a truck. So think about that. Another con for your Class C motorhomes is driving capabilities. You might be limited. With the example that I was saying earlier, right? These vehicles might not just be able to park anywhere because how big and wide they are. Tight corners, maybe driving them into like a small area or congested area like a downtown park, anything like that. So you will be a little limited when it comes to those type of limitations with a Class C motorhome. And yeah, so let's go into the last one. We're almost done when it comes to RV capabilities, and that's going to be our Class A motorhome. Our Class A motorhome is the top of all RV options. And again, to put you a visual into perspective, when you're talking about a Class A motorhome, you're basically talking about, think about a school bus, think about it like those city buses, but with a home built inside. They are massive. I'm talking about some Class A motorhomes are like, like 35 feet wide, over 30 feet. That's insane. So that's how big some of the Class A motorhomes are. So that is one absolute amazing perk of your Class A's, right? Another big perk of your Class A motorhomes is basically the amenities. These are the top of the line. These are the RV that people think about, one option where they're thinking about, I want to live in this full time, but I want something that I can drive on. They have absolutely anything and everything you will need in order to make this a full-time living experience. When it comes to multiple bedrooms, when it comes to multiple bathrooms, when it comes to full-size kitchen, full-size bathroom, when it comes to washer and dryer connection, when it comes to high ceiling fans, anything, all the bells and whistles. But they are absolutely the greatest option, okay? And another perk of your Class A motorhomes is, like we keep talking about, towing capabilities. They have, because they're so massive, they have such a big engine, they also have the biggest torque power when it comes to towing things. So you could easily tow most vehicles in a Class A motorhome, regardless of the size. It doesn't need to be anything small. I've seen anything like even big SUVs, big pickups being towed, and in Class A motorhomes, I even seen like big trailers being towed with Class A motorhomes. Okay, so now let's talk about the cons. The cons on your Class A motorhome, the first one and the most brutal one is just the price, man. Yeah, those Class A motorhomes are so expensive. I'm talking about, I'm willing to put money down that you cannot find a Class A motorhome for less than six figures. Brand new, of course. And if you're trying to go for less than six figures, it will need to be something used, and I'm talking about a few years old used. Okay, they are cheapest I've seen brand new is like over 150. So they are very, very expensive. So just something to consider. Okay, They are also massive, like we said, and that could come with a con. Con is, it could be a little scary for some people to drive these around. I would not be trying to be the one driving a Class A motorhome around downtown. Trying to park on them will be a little rough. Tight turns, right? So it can be intimidating. Oh, excuse me. It can be intimidating for someone that does not have a lot of RV driving experience. Okay. And obviously the last con is, because going back to the same thing, because they're so massive, it's going to be the fact of fuel economy. They are the worst when it comes to MPG efficiency. Especially if you're trying to tow something. Like if you're trying to tow something, be ready to be on the single digits when it comes to MPGs. So be ready for something like that, especially like we keep using example. I know this is full-time RVing, so you might not be driving too much, but let's say for your new moving adventure, you're going like cross-country type of drive, be ready to spend a few $1,000s on fuel with a Class A motorhome, okay? And that's it. That covers all RV options and all the pros and cons of living with them full-time based on each of the categories, all right? So the next topic that I said I wanted to discuss in this topic of full-time RVing is a pretty important topic, because we're talking about, okay, you bought it. Where are you going to park this RV for your full-time living experience? So you have a few options, and same concept I'm going to talk about from the cheapest option all the way up to the most expensive, and you decide which one is the one that fits your needs better. And I'm going to say the cheapest and most quickest option for you to find a place to live and park your RV is just going to be just a RV campground, like an RV park. Okay. Now, when it comes to price point, price can be a big gap. And I'm going to tell you here in a second why. I have seen RV parks charging a monthly fee of maybe as low as $400. And I've seen RV parks charging as much as $1,200 a month just for the spot, okay? Because you are bringing your house, which is the RV. So why is such a big price difference, like disparity between the two? I can tell you that there's a few reasons. One of them being that, let's say example, a $400 a month rent space for an RV park, it's just gonna give you the bare bone essentials, right? You're gonna have electricity, you're gonna have water, and you're gonna have septic. That is it. Everything else is on you. And I'm willing to put money that that location is probably not the best one when it comes to most desirable or popular location. So that's for the cheaper ends. And then for the most expensive ones, it's kind of sort of the opposite. So they are probably in desirable locations, high-end communities. But what I've seen with these super expensive RV parks is you're paying not just for the space, you're paying for all the stuff that comes with this space. They almost treat some of these expensive RV parks like a vacation club type of setting, where you don't only have the essentials and the place to park your home, you have some extra amenities included, like trash service included, Wi-Fi service included, cable service included. They could have some nice amenities like a gym, like a pool, like a dog park, like a tennis court, basketball court, trailers for you to do exercise. I've seen them even with fancy things like events places you can rent for a specific type of setting only for members of that community. So that's one of the biggest and other reasons why the big difference when it comes to the price point of renting an RV park in the two settings. Because remember, you are bringing your home. Now, this fee is just for you to be able to place your home in this space, okay? So that's the quickest and most, like cheapest, depending which option you go for, right? But that's not the only option either. You could go for the route of, if you have your own land, you can just live off the grid and put your RV on empty land. But that also comes with some disadvantages and potentially even bigger investments, right? Because if you're doing this, if you're parking this RV on a land, assuming you own a land, if you have to buy land that's even a bigger acquisition, right? But if you already have the land, how are you gonna power it? How are you gonna give water? Where are you gonna dump your black and gray water? So that's a disadvantage that comes with something like this, because you could invest in a, placing electricity in this location, placing a septic tank, placing sewer, all that stuff. But now you're talking about like tens of thousands of dollars for something like that. So that's most definitely not the most economical option. And that's probably something, if you're doing that, it's probably long term because you want to live in this place for the rest of your life. If you're thinking about this more like in a temporary setting, yes, you can do that, but that will still incur some inconveniences because, example, if how to power it, if your RV doesn't already come with a built-in generator, which some of the modern ones have, now you're looking at, you're gonna have to buy a generator, and it has to be a strong generator. It cannot just be a cheap $200 generator. Good safe zone. If you have an RV with an AC heat to be able to power everything, multiple things running at the same time. 9,000 watts is probably a good start point. So you're probably looking at a generator on the expensive side. Not just to mention now you're gonna have to spend money on fuel on this generator, right? So that's just to give it power. That's not even counting how are you gonna get water, how are you gonna dump your black and gray water. If you're doing this completely out of the grid with nothing in this land, now it's gonna create the inconvenience. You're gonna have to, like either bring this RV to a location where you can dump the gray and black water and fill fresh water, or you're gonna have to go in your car, get the gray water and get one of those tanks, empty the gray and black water on any location that you can pay for that, and then refill the water yourself in the RV location. And this is not a once a month thing. This is probably like every 2-3 days you're gonna have to go through the same thing. So it will require a lot of extra work and inconvenience depending on your time and your interests. So that's definitely something to take in consideration when it comes to living on an empty land. Okay, and I think I'm just going to talk about one more thing before letting you guys go, and that's the option of buying cash versus financing. This is a topic, a very important topic that I want to talk about because of an experience that I went through when I did this myself, that if you're new, some sort of new in this topic, you may not know. So from the outset, obviously, it's going to sound obvious that the best option is to pay cash versus financing. And you are absolutely right. It is. But know this, even if you pay cash for your RV, right, $20, $30, $40, $50,000, just know that while this RV is a home, on the eyes of banks and the investment are not being seen as a home. A home is typically seen as an investment that you buy now and with the passive years is going to eventually rise in value. Not with RVs, okay? RVs are being seen more like a vehicle, which if you had a vehicle, you probably know the vehicle is a depreciating asset. RVs is actually the same. So if you buy an RV cash, just know that if you pay $50,000 for it today, in 5 years, it might be worth 45. It might be worth 10,000 less. Okay, so don't expect to use your hard-earned savings on buying this RV and know that and thinking that throughout the years is going to be costing more than what you pay for. So just keep that in the back of your mind, even if you pay cash. Now let's talk about financing it. Financing it can actually be even a bigger strain because I'm going to tell you a recent experience I went through. I didn't know until I went to the space that a lot of banks will actually give you the option to finance an RV with some sort of similar terms that they will do with a home. Meaning that when I financed one of my classy RVs, the bank gave me the option to go all the way up to a 15-year loan on this RV. It was like, damn, that sounds attractive, right? I think at that time I went for like a 10-year or 12 years. I didn't do the full 15. So my monthly payment on this RV, this is a $40,000 RV, if I remember correctly, value, it was used. I was paying $400 a month. And I have excellent credit. So even with excellent credit, that's another thing. Like back then, I think the lowest they offered me was a 7.5 interest rate, because there's another thing to know. While homes and cars, I mean, today's not probably the best scenario with how crazy the economy is, but homes and cars, you typically see them on like a really low interest rate, Like in the past, you can buy a home with like a 2-3% interest rate if you had good credit. Cars, you could still even maybe today find cars with a 0% interest rate on some selected new models. That is not the case with RVs. So interest rates RVs are being seen in that end more like a luxury. So the lowest that I got at that time was a 7.5 interest rate. And I'm saying this for you to know that in a 10-year loan with this RV that I bought, $40,000, 7.5 interest rate. I was trying to sell it after 4 years of paying this, loan. I think at that point, I'm just almost confident that I bought a $40,000 loan with this RV, and after 4 years of paying it, I own like $45,000. It's like, how the hell did I still owe more than what it would cost me when I paid for it? And it's because of this factor. It's because of, like, I chose for a 10-year loan on a 7.5 interest rate. So even after 4 years, I'm still paying only interest. And that's a lot of years with a lot of interest. So just have that in the back of your mind, that don't get too attractive for the monthly payment. Like, oh, $400, that's sweet, I can make that payment. And then you end up being screwed over. And after 4, 5, 10 years of paying this RV, you still own half of it because of the sweet monthly payment. It was taking you forever to apport to the principal. Okay, so please keep that in the back of your mind. Be mindful of that, because it is it's a long term, it's a big expense. Okay, and that's it. I'm gonna stop right there because I've already been talking for 46 minutes in my watch. So again, I hope this video brought value to you. I wish I knew some of these things when I got into the RV business side of things. This is the reason why I created this video. I am considering myself, as I getting close to retirement, to be one of those raves people to make this RV full-time living an experience for me and my family. So more to come if I go to that route. Again, today's April 25th, 2025. I hope that you got value out of this video. Again, feel free to comment on the box below. Let me know your thoughts. If you want more videos like this, if you did not like this video, I can definitely create more content like this for you. And yeah, this is Angel with NomaTube. So peace out, YouTube.